Hey, welcome to NextMeta, a podcast and a newsletter about on-chain economies, coordination, most effective tactics, and the bigger picture. Serious topics and a not-so-serious host. Hope you enjoy. Welcome, Griff, to NextMeta podcast. Been a long time.
GM. Yeah, no kidding, man. Although we're always in our DMs hanging out, chatting.
Yeah. That's happening, but yeah, I think the last time you were on the podcast, or the last and first was like 3 years ago or something. So definitely
Oh, wow.
long overdue.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were one of the first guests, I think, even. But yeah,
Oh, yeah.
at this point, Griff has been a long-time friend of mine who went from chemical engineering and being the first person ever to get a degree in digital currencies to being the whitehat hacker for the DAO, to founding Giveth and Common Stack and a Burning Man camp called Camp Decentral. So I'm sure I missed a bunch of things, but
Yeah, too
many
many
things. But
things.
those are some of the main ones, I guess. And yeah, so Griff is an OG of OGs in Regen crypto. Like I've been here since 2016, and I don't think I've heard anybody talk about regen stuff in crypto before Griff. Like Griff, always smiling, giving lots of donations to public goods. I have many great things to say about him, but I'll stop there and let the man speak.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me on the show. I have like so much going on these days, like so many launches this week and so many big projects. I don't even know where to start, man. Like, do you have like a direction you want to go in with this? Because I could just rant on any direction.
Well, I guess in case some people still don't know you, like if there's anything you want to expand on what I just said, or we can just skip straight through,
I mean,
up to you.
you pretty much covered it. I mean, I founded DappNode as well. That's kind of a big one. I did a lot of early work with the DAO governance. Most famous for the DAO, of course, the first big DAO in Ethereum, and then that got hacked for $50 million, which at the time was 4% of Ethereum. And then like me and my team, we rescued the other 10% of all Ether in existence and held it in our contracts for a while until a hard fork happened. And with that hard fork created Ethereum Classic. So I kind of consider Ethereum Classic my second token launch. First one being the DAO, second one Ether Classic, and then after that we had 10% of all Ether Classic, to give back to everyone. Laura Shin wrote a really great book called The Cryptopians, which kind of covers that whole saga. And then after that, I focused on, even during the DAO, my main focus has always been that we can build something better than governments. And my main thesis here is that when governments fail to provide value to society, people start nonprofits. So nonprofits are actually the free market replacement for governments. That makes nonprofits sound a lot cooler, right? Like you don't think of nonprofits as being
Right.
like so revolutionary, but actually when governments suck, people start nonprofits. So you really want this, if we can, the goal of Giveth and the goal of everything I do in crypto is to make nonprofits profitable, to make nonprofits outcompete governments. If we could appreciate the value that nonprofits and public goods, that's what we always talk about in this space. Instead of nonprofits, we say public goods. If we could create systems that appreciate the value that public goods are providing, then we don't need governments. And this is where you and I always align so much with the metagame, and all of your writing is always inspiring because it's very much aligned with this, that we can do better than governments. I don't think anyone thinks that, this is the pinnacle of human coordination, governments and corporations. Clearly
Right.
we can do better. So
Right.
just working towards that goal. And there's a lot to do.
I never thought of it that way, like that non-profits are kind of an indicator of how much the institutions suck in certain states. But yeah, you kind of already hit on like what I wanted to ask you next, which is like what motivates you to be here, like what got you here and what keeps you here and all of that.
Well, what got me here is I'm a crazy anarchist, basically. And I back in the day, I actually gave up bank accounts and moved to physical gold and silver as a store of value. So I didn't have a bank account for years, and um, physical gold and silver suck. Honestly, I mean they're great as a store of value, but like as a bank account replacement, not so hot. So I actually ended up trading some gold for Bitcoin, and I was very interested in Bitcoin from early days, like 2011, just from like Trace Mayer videos and stuff like that. And but having to wire money to Mount Gox in Japan like didn't really seem like it was the only way I could figure out how to get Bitcoin, so I just didn't, you know, and I just kind of I was more philosophically aligned, right? So I was not doing it as thinking about it as an investment. It was more like something to play with. And man, I wish I would have mined some Bitcoin back then. That would have been the way to go. I didn't watch the right videos, but yeah. And so then eventually, a friend of mine learned about Silk Road, and he was like, "I'm gonna get." He got some Bitcoin from Coinbase in 2013. I was like, "You got some Bitcoin? I want some, dude. Let's make a trade." You know. So I traded some gold and silver for Bitcoin, and then just became obsessed. Long story short, and I, this is mid 2013, and then at the end of the year, Bitcoin went to $1,000, and I was just like, "Whoa, what is this stuff?" I was a massage therapist at the time, and I just gave up all that. I mean, my wrists were hurting anyway; it wasn't much to give up, uh, and uh, and just became obsessed and just did everything I could to get into the industry, like getting the master's degree and all that jazz.
All right, and so then, like at that point, there was still not many use cases beyond Bitcoin. Like, was that like at the time of the colored coins, like the beginning of
Yeah,
purpose-built chains?
yeah, totally. They had colored coins. Master Coin was coming out, which is now Omni, which like Tether came from. And let's see, they had XRP, BitShares. They had all sorts of cool things. I mean, the first fork of Bitcoin was Namecoin, which is basically the Bitcoin version of ENS, without like geniuses like Nick Johnson at the helm. I mean, I'm sure the Namecoin guys were geniuses for sure, but they just kind of created it and walked away, you know? So, which is cool. I mean, it's cool that you can build these systems and just walk away and they keep running. I mean, you can still register on Namecoin even though no one cares. You can still register .bit domains on that software because it's like I mean, and this is what excites me about crypto in general, and it got me so excited in the first place. You can make these runaway economic machines that just create value for society. It's insane, you know. And people that I feel like that's the theme that has always been there and was there to, since someone made Namecoin, like the first altcoin. Then it just all of a sudden everyone realized you could make prime coin. And someone made this thing called prime coin back then, where every time you find a new prime number that no one that hasn't been recorded on the prime coin blockchain, then you get prime coin, right? I mean, this is a big currency back then, funded by a that was like doing useful work, you could say. And it found like, I don't remember, it was like 35 million. It's still running today, finding new prime numbers every day. And I want to say it found like 35 million prime numbers. And at the time, before the blockchain started, we only knew of 4 million. And so it's like using these weird incentive mechanisms of just like issuing a currency, you can create value. You can incentivize humans to create value by issuing scarcity, digital scarcity. And so people were doing that back then, but it was all this kind of like weird stuff. But the whole time I got excited about like, could we do this for meat space value, right? Like digital value is great, but who's going to build the bridges? Who's going to build the roads? Who's going to take care of the less fortunate in society? Who's going to like take care of the environment? Who's going to care about the social causes and political causes that we all care about? Like, can we create incentive mechanisms around that? Can we issue digital scarcity for that? Yeah, I've been obsessed with that since the very beginning.
Right. And then I guess that sort of led you to both Giveth and Common Stack and general obsession with bonding curves.
Yeah. Well, yes, exactly. Because so bonding curves are, I think, and I've said this many times, but I think bonding curves will win a Nobel Prize in economics because they solve a huge problem. If you want to sell a token publicly, right? If you want to sell shares publicly, if you want to sell anything publicly, you need a large market for accurate price discovery. As in, you need to be pretty big. Like the SEC exists for a reason. You can't just like start a little restaurant and issue shares publicly and have anyone trade those shares, because then something like COVID will happen. And even though your restaurant is very profitable, if some people want to sell and no one wants to buy, instantly the price of your shares goes to zero, which is not accurate. It's not accurate price discovery for that restaurant. The restaurant's profitable every month, So how can the shares go to zero? Well, because there's a lack of liquidity. And what bonding curves do is it's just this little program on the blockchain that can mint and burn tokens, right? So, and it mints and burns it because you send that contract collateral. You send it money, right? So the contract can hold money and mint and burn tokens. And as it collects more money, the price of the next token goes up. If people send tokens to it, it will destroy the token and release collateral, and the price of the next token will go down, right? So it's this little money making machine, right? And by literally making money, like issuing currency, right? And what's cool is if I want to sell Amazon stock, someone has to buy my Amazon stock. If I want to sell a chair, someone needs to buy my chair. If I want to buy a painting, someone needs to sell me that painting, If I want to buy a token in the bonding curve, it'll just be created on demand. If I want to sell my token, no one else in the world wants this token. This token is just the worst shit coin ever, right? I can sell it. I can still sell it. It's like, that's crazy. That's amazing, And everyone who has that token could sell and it goes to zero, like until there's no tokens left. I mean, this is something that everyone has experienced. If you've been in crypto long enough, you got tokens in your wallet that are worth nothing. You bought that token for real money, and now it's worth nothing. With bonding curves, that doesn't happen. You can always sell it, which is so cool, and that's why I get excited about bonding curves, is because if we want to issue more local solution, an economy, if we want to create an economy for a local problem, like keeping a river clean, we're going to need bonding curves. That's not going to be a $100 million market cap project, and my thesis here is that keeping a river clean, it doesn't have it's obviously there's a lot of value. There's a lot of value for a lot of people. A lot of people live on that river. They use the water. They want their kids to be able to play in that river. That creates value for people, right? But there's no real business model, but there is value. So I believe we can create an economic model that can appreciate the value of that clean river. But to have an economic model, we have to issue some kind of digital scarcity and then create demand for that scarcity. Now, the creating demand part is the hard part. Issuing digital scarcity, that's super easy. Anyone can, you used to have an army to start an economy. Now you just need to know a couple of nerds, and you can launch a token like that, but creating demand for that economy, it's a little trickier. And that's where the magic is. That's where the fun is. Like, can we create repeatable patterns that people appreciate? Like NFTs. NFTs were a nice pattern. The problem with NFTs is what I said before. How many NFTs do you have that are absolutely worth nothing now? or but you bought them with real money, but there's no one to sell them to. There's no market.
Mhm.
So it's a it's like a better way of doing donations, I think, for sure. But it's not. It doesn't get that full-fledged economic vibe. And that's why I love bonding curves, and that's why I think that they're going to be so helpful in at least my mission of uh, creating economies around causes.
Hold on, and let me tell you about the Gnosis card, the first ever non-custodial crypto debit card. It allows you to spend your crypto directly from your on-chain wallet and do it anywhere where Visa cards are accepted. You can have your ENS on it instead of your real name. That's so cool. The card costs 30 euros, but if you use our referral link and our referral link only, you get the card for free. We've been using the card for 4 months now, and we can say you will not be disappointed unless you are from the US or Mexico or a bunch of other countries where you cannot order the card, but you can still use it there if you get it elsewhere. Gnosis card. Very nice. Get it now, it's a limited time offer. Come on, don't waste your time. Right. And so, like, by now we can say like how it all fits together, like with Giveth and the common stack and the token engineering commons. Like, it all makes sense. Was it like is that how you saw it from the beginning? Like, we're gonna build these three things separately, and then at some point they're all gonna converge on one big thing, or
Yeah.
was
So
more iterative?
the so Giveth started, like, first thing was like, okay, we're gonna launch DAOs for nonprofits, right? And so that was kind of the idea. And with the DAO, we can create an economy with a token and da da da. So we launched Giveth. We actually, the first version of Giveth, when you sent a donation and you got a token in that charity, right? So like that was
Oh,
the
that
first
already
version of
existed.
Giveth. Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
it's super easy to create tokens, right? So we created the mini me token, which was eventually that mini me token turned into what we use today as snapshot voting with everywhere. So that was kind of the first version of that, of like basically snapshotting the balances within the token contract itself. So we created, Jordy and I designed the mini me token, and then we created a vault contract that was kind of like a DAO vault contract, one of the earliest versions of a smart contract wallet, actually, where you had certain rules of how you could use the funds in that wallet, and and it was kind of a very much modular, and so we connected it to the mini me token. So the mini me token holders had certain rights over the vault contract, so you kind of had this DAO, right? And then we also had this milestone tracker thing so it's like for nonprofits, so you can like donate to a milestone, and then when they reach the milestone, the money can be released. There'd be like reviewers and things. So that this was the first DAO version within Giveth that we launched, that we created, and then the idea was nonprofits could use this system to issue tokens to their donors, and then the donors become really investors effectively. But learned so much, right? First, there were no, I didn't know anything about bonding curves that back then, or really secondary markets and how these things work. None of these tokens ever had value, right? Because they had no liquidity. So learned that pretty quick. Also learned that nonprofits don't really want to work with crypto. Oh yeah, here's this crazy smart contract suite. Enjoy. No, they don't care about that, right? So
right.
um, what nonprofits want is the crypto donations. They want to be able to accept Bitcoin, Ether, and all that, and just like run and turn the money into fiat so they can buy blankets for the homeless. Like they're not trying to DAO. They're just trying to meet their immediate needs because they're so underfunded. So Common Stack kind of evolved once we figured out a better way of doing this. Talking to geniuses like Simon de la Rouvier and Jeff Emmett and Michael Zargum, we kind of brainstormed a way of system of creating a better version of that DAO system that we started with Giveth, doing bonding curves, conviction voting, and this whole thing. And so but then we realized like nonprofits don't want this actually, and Giveth's brand is all focused on nonprofits. So so we just spun Common Stack out to play in places where it's not like, oh yeah, the other thing is I don't really like using nonprofits as guinea pigs for crazy crypto economic experiments. Like they have shit to do. That's really important.
Right.
The nerds that love this stuff, like they're way more excited about playing around with conviction voting and bonding curves and multi-sigs and jumping through our hoops on how to even install a wallet, and being able to risk money in this crazy dangerous wallet game that we have. So yeah, we started the Common Stack to target more of the Web3 space, but still do the stuff that we wanted to use for Giveth. And so and then we launched the Token Engineering Commons because that was the most self-serving commons I could think of. Honestly, like we needed more token engineering. Token engineering is think of like if you build a bridge, you are not a civil engineer. You just built a bridge. You went to Home Depot, you got some cement and you slapped something together. And yeah, it gets you over the water, but how long is that thing going to last? How safe is it really? You're a bridge builder. You're not a civil engineer. Civil engineers have certain standards that they will apply, and in Canada, for instance, they have this thing called the iron ring. And every engineer gets this iron ring they wear on their pinky so that they can remember and the meme is that the iron actually comes from bridges that had collapsed, right? And so the Canadian engineers will wear that on their pinky finger, so that on their signing hand, so that they remember that their signature means something, and it can really, if they approve plans that aren't good, that people will die, and that's the kind of, we don't have that kind of ethical code as a standard in crypto. It's horrible. We really need it. If this is what token engineering can bring. It can bring, like, let's study what went wrong. Let's look at this as a holistic system. Let's worry about the people who are involved. Like, I feel like most crypto economic systems are built like really skinny roads on the edge of a cliff with no guardrails. Like, that is how we live in crypto, and no civil engineer would sign that paper, like put up a guardrail, help the people not
Right.
die, and that's just not the standard in crypto, whether it's the wallets or the token economies, like there's a lack of that. I think there are projects that do it really well. I think MakerDAO, it does designs in public, makes decisions like this. I think there are absolute, anyone that works with Gauntlet or block science, these guys are token engineers, and they are really doing the work here to build systems that will not, just explode and hurt people. So I really appreciate their work. And so we launched the Token Engineering Commons because it kind of like with a bonding curve, conviction voting, and all these cool things. And we learned a lot. I learned conviction voting has promise, but it has to be applied in a specific setting. And that wasn't the right setting for it. But we also learned the bonding curve killed it. The bonding curve killed it. We launched this thing called the augmented bonding curve, which ended up having, it is a certain way to launch a bonding curve where it starts with a hatch. It starts with like a bulk buy of a lot of tokens, because the one thing to know about bonding curves is the first person in gets the best price, right? So the earlier you are, the better the price it is. But if you bulk buy a lot of it with a lot of people where everyone gets the same price, it's a lot more fair, and so you kind of have this early adopter crew that gets a lot of tokens at a fair price, but they still get a really good price. In fact, they get the average price. First token is worth almost nothing. The last token is worth $1. The price you're getting is like somewhere around 40 cents, because it's actually this like really interesting curve. It's not a straight line, right? So you get even less than half the price, but it's also under collateralized. So if you use a reserve ratio of 20%, let's say, then But what's really cool is because you're doing this bulk buy. I won't get into the details of bonding curve math, but if you do this bulk buy at the beginning, because people get such a good deal, you can actually charge them more and put a bunch of money in a collective pot that they can govern, right? And that's what we do. That's what we did with the TEC. So there was like, we raised $1.5 million to advance token engineering research. We had fees on the mint and burn, so that whenever anyone's trading the token, those fees would go into the collective pot that would then fund advancing token engineering. And to this day, even though the Token Engineering Commons doesn't have a lot of community action, it has been, I mean, it does in QF rounds. Instead of using conviction voting to distribute funding, actually turned off conviction voting, turned on quadratic funding, and have been funding token engineering projects via our token economy through quadratic funding ever since. And we fund and when people buy and sell the TEC token, we get fees, right? Those fees have raised over $300,000 for token engineering,
Yeah.
and then plus the $1.5 million that we raised at the initial, that we've been able to put well over $1.2 million into the hands of open source token engineering, like people that are building tools that will make the whole space safer. So, and we did it without donations. We did it without taxes, right? And we're funding public goods through economics, and in a micro way, in a niche way. It's like Ethereum and Bitcoin, they did the same thing. They're funding public goods. Like Bitcoin is one of the most incredible public goods out there. People don't think of it like this, but public goods are non-excludable, non-rivalrous, right? Anyone in the world can create a Bitcoin address and receive money from anyone else in the world. That is completely non-excludable and mostly non-rivalrous. The Bitcoin blockchain only has 1 megabyte blocks, right? So there is a little bit of rivalry. Just like there's traffic on roads, there can be traffic on these financial rails. And the coolest thing, though, is that this open financial system, which is a public good for all of humanity, was funded by issuance, funded by economics, not by donations and not by taxes. And so the Token Engineering Commons is like a smaller version of that had to do a lot of like things because it's small, a lot of little improvements because it's small, and also a lot of DAOI stuff so that it could take the subjective input of the community and create an output that people like. So like, and that was a very successful experiment, the Token Engineering Commons. And now we're taking the lessons from that, and we're actually launching this mechanism called QAC, which combines augmented bonding curves plus quadratic funding in a slightly different way than the Token Engineering Commons did, where now, and it also kind of combines traditional grant giving and solves a huge problem in this space for Web3 grants programs. Because I know I've seen Metagame apply for grants. I apply for grants as well, of course. And I see how the game is played. It's like you apply for an Arbitrum grant, you get the Arbitrum grant, you build a little bit for Arbitrum, and then you apply for an Optimism grant. And you take the stuff that you built for Arbitrum and you give it to Optimism, their competitor, and then you advance your project a little bit more. And then you apply for a ZK Sync grant.
ZK Sync, whatever is active, yeah.
Yeah, who's giving money out? I don't care. Like, we'll take your money and we'll build some value some way, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot by committing to optimism only, because like this really seems to be the game. Like, go to every chain, every L2, and get a grant from each.
Yeah, which sucks though. Well, it sucks that is the best way to play, and it's just, and it's crazy too, because these chains or whatever network, Uniswap, they will give you money in their token, and then you just dump their token, and go to the next chain. Like, I mean, that doesn't like it. It could be viewed like that. That's not why you have to dump the token. You have to dump the token so you can pay your bills, but like, and they're paying in their token. So it's just a backwards setup. But with QAC, Quadratic Accelerator, we can take projects that actually might want a token. And instead of, because it doesn't work for all grant projects. Not all grant projects need a token, So if you don't need a token, if you don't have any way that you can create an economy around the value you're creating, this isn't the program for you. But if you're launching a project that's adding value to an ecosystem and you think you could have a token, what the Quadratic Accelerator program will do is we'll take a grant from Polygon and distribute that to you so you can launch your own token with a bonding curve and collateralize that token with Matic, right? And now you are committed to that ecosystem, because if Matic goes up, your token goes up. Matic goes down, your token goes down. You committed to optimism because you felt like that was the right thing to do. And it is. But now with this system, we have incentives that encourage you to do the right thing, as opposed to the current Web3 ecosystem's incentives, which is encouraging you to hop around to whoever's got the juiciest grant program that month, So now you launch a token, and the cool thing is the grant actually gave you the starting capital to collateralize your token with the augmented bonding curve. And now you have all the tokens for free, basically, right? So now you just launched your own economy, you have your tokens, they're all locked. And then now you can invite your community, the close, trusted community that you really believe cares about the project that you're creating, or can add value to your project, at least in some very important way. Then you can let them in to buy into your token, right? And it's really nice because it's buy-in. It's not like this airdrop stuff where, people have to really commit, but they get a great price, right? And them, and there's trust there, right? And so now you have this very early, committed, properly incentivized community with locked tokens. And then we run QF rounds. So I just described this for one project. Imagine there's 10 projects doing this. And then we run a quadratic funding round, which we call a QAC round, quack round. I love the meme of the duck and all that for this. Like it's really coming through. Like there's a Discord soundboard for quack. It's like, great.
Love it.
We have a lot of fun with it. But when you run the QAC program, which is just like QF, except when the donors are donating, they get tokens back. At Gitcoin, you used to be able to donate to some projects and be like, maybe I'll get an airdrop. Here, it's like you donate and you for sure get tokens back and get upside in the community. And those tokens are also locked, though, right? So we run and the matching pool, instead of being distributed to the projects, the matching pool along with the donations all go into the bonding curve all at once to create a bunch of tokens. The donors get their tokens, but the matching pool tokens that are created. So like, all of this money that's collected goes into the bonding curves and issues the project's tokens. So now you have Matic that became project tokens for these 10 different projects in the QF round. Mm-hmm. And the projects that did the best using the quadratic funding calculation rules will actually get the matching pool funds will turn into a liquidity pool on a decentralized exchange, so that now there are liquid tokens on the market that anyone can buy. And the craziest thing is, at this point, there are no tokens that anyone can sell. All the other tokens are locked. So when that hits the market, that's when the bots come in. That's when the crazy, people come in and are just speculating, and they don't care about your project. They're just trying to make money. That's when they can come in, Before that, everyone gets locked tokens. They have to actually believe that your project is going to do well. In fact, in the QAC round, people are judging all 10 projects and making their bets on who's going to do the best. So these 10 projects have this like market feedback cycle, you know, and then, but then you have the public speculation, you know, like Friendtech uses somewhat of a similar pattern to the augmented bonding curve as we're doing, except they don't use the hatch. They just have fees on the mints and burns. And by not having the hatch and not having this trusted setup, when you launch a token on Friendtech and create your chat room, which will also have these like token gated chat rooms for QAC. But when you launch this token gated chat room, the first people who buy your tokens are bots, and then they start to dump on each other.
Right.
It's like, that's the wrong time. You need to start with a trusted seed, like a trusted group of people that actually care about what you're doing in this chat room. If they just added a hatch and let you like bring in 20 people that you care about and have an interesting conversation, that'd be so much better. And then let the bots come in, you know? But like, because they don't do that, Friendtech sucks, you know, like, and with this, because we're actually, you know, first off, we're only taking 10 projects out of the 100 or so that apply. Who knows how many will apply? And then, so they're actually the best projects, real legit projects with a real legit community and an opportunity to grow them. And then they have these QAC rounds, and then they have the regular QAC rounds, as well as an open public market. We can really build these good projects, you know? And our goal is to launch this first for Polygon, then for Giveth for nonprofits. This is actually, this whole design is the end game for Giveth and Girvs. So now nonprofits will follow the same pattern where Giveth will grant them Give tokens, and then they'll be able to launch their own bonding curves, and people will be able to they'll be able to collect more people. And what's really cool is this is like a vacuum cleaner for the Give token. It's just, you know, every bonding curve is just going to suck up Give tokens off the open market and lock them there. And we're going to launch more economies and more economies and more economies and have this competitive quadratic accelerator rounds. You know, it's, and then they have their open markets, and on the open markets, the other cool thing, the bonding curves are closed. They are only accessible during the QAC rounds, except for there'll be an arbitrage bot that can arbitrage with the secondary markets on the decentralized exchange. So they will be able to buy and sell tokens to keep the price relatively stable within a range based off of the fees on the bonding curve. And this is going to create a constant revenue stream for the project, which is super cool. You know, so basically QAC is like a grant program, but instead of giving the project a grant, they give the project an economy with a revenue stream and create this competitive environment where they can really succeed. They can show their stuff. So that's like one project I'm launching. I know we only have a few more minutes. Can I go into some of the other projects?
Yeah, I was gonna say like so we don't run out of time. Just do a quick rundown of all the launches.
Okay, so QAC is, you know, this is still, we're still like finalizing the white paper. We got a grant from Polygon. Thank you, Polygon. And I'm excited to launch it with Jordy as well, because it's, you know, Jordy and I started Giveth, we started DappNode together. We started a lot of projects together, and now we're kind of working together again, which is so nice. We had but anyway, I could go down that rabbit hole, but I'll stop myself. So very excited to work with Jordy and Polygon to make this program a reality for first Polygon, then Giveth, and then hopefully other projects that want to launch bonding curves on Polygon, but they can use a different base token. And then eventually, once we have perfected it in the Polygon ecosystem, you know, we'll venture out in other ecosystems too. The problem is with this whole system is that crypto UX still sucks, you know. And one of the other projects that I'm working on, and probably the most important project I'm working on, sadly, is trying to bring safety to Web3. Just 3 days ago, a friend of mine who's been in crypto getting crypto funding for nonprofits since 2017. Okay, like basically an OG in the space, made a horrible mistake, sent I think it was Ether on Arbitrum to it was USDT Tether, like USDT on Arbitrum to an Ethereum deposit address on Coinbase, and Coinbase doesn't support Arbitrum. So $3,000 for their nonprofit locked in Coinbase limbo because crypto UX sucks. It's not safe. There's no guardrails, So I want to build a wallet that has those guardrails built in. It's called unicorn.eth. It's actually going to be a white label wallet, and we use ENS domains. It's going to be the simplest wallet ever. You don't even know what your address is. You don't see networks. We take care of all of the complexity behind the scenes. It feels like a custodial, it's a non-custodial wallet, but it feels like you're using an exchange. And it's even better than that because you get a domain name, and we also are building the software so that any brand, like you could start a metagame wallet, and you would know that everyone who uses the metagame wallet, they would have like a custom experience for their interactions with metagame, but also they wouldn't have to worry about accidentally sending tokens that they got to, the wrong address on the wrong chain, because behind the scenes, we build a lot of infrastructure to keep the user safe. Keep it simple and keep it safe. And there's a lot of effort on security, and yet you can just send your money to a known scam address. Oh yeah, I've seen scam websites where they're like, oh hey, a warning will come up. Close that warning and then send the money here. It's just like that. So you close the warning and you send, like, I get permissionless, Most people don't want that. Most people just don't want to lose their money, So we want to build a wallet that's like, no, you can't send to that address. I'm sorry, Send to another wallet and then send to that address, because that address is a known scam address. You cannot send there, And we also want to build in like a lot of cool things around this wallet, but other things that I'm launching, actually I could even share a screen because I have some things up. Right now, in Giveth, we have a really cool round where we're collecting donations for projects in this round that are creating environmental impact. So you can see like this project has raised $14, but then they're going to get $120 in matching. This project raised 22, Urbanica. Yeah, do you have any favorite projects in the round, Pete?
I haven't checked the list of projects, but I know
Regen
Urbanica,
Unite. Let's see who's
Regions
doing
Unite.
really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some Bloom Network's always a good one. There's lots of great projects in here. All of them have environmental impact. And actually, just yesterday, we got a donation to increase the matching pool to $40,000. So it's super cool. And maybe we'll even get more sponsors. But actually, the coolest thing that hasn't been announced yet, but will probably be announced by the time this is aired, is that region token airdrops are going to be coming. So if you donate on Cello with USD Glow, you're going to get huge region token. If you donate at all to at least 3 projects, you'll get like a big multiplier on your region token airdrop. But if you donate with USD Glow, you get a bonus multiplier. And if you donate on Cello, you get a bonus multiplier. So if you donate USD Glow on Cello to the QF round, you get a huge multiplier. And it's just so cool because it's like public good Legos, USD Glow uses interest earned to send money to nonprofits. Cello is like actually a carbon positive blockchain that is taking carbon out of the environment, like very environmental focused blockchain. And you use all these cool regen tools to to decide how $40,000 gets split amongst all these projects. It's crazy. And then you will make, not only will you get regen tokens, you're also going to get give tokens. Like, you're probably going to make money by donating in this round, which is just crazy that donations will make you
Insane.
money. It's insane. And then
Sounds like I got some
also,
bridging to do.
yeah, right. You got to get on solo. And then on top of that, this week they just launched Retro PGF 4. Retro funding now they call it Retro funding 4. And so I created a couple of voting tools to make things more fun with retro funding. First, devouch, uh, which oops, I gotta switch my network. But devouch is like a super simple app where you can just vouch for projects that you like. So you can signal to the retro funding badge holders the projects that you believe are scams. You can flag projects, or you can vouch for projects. And this is a something made by Giveth. Like, what is yeah. So, and if you, as long as you're a delegate, your reputation will matter. If you're a badge holder, your reputation matters. If you're a passport holder, Gitcoin passport holder, your reputation matters. And when you vouch, you can actually leave a little note for the project about why you like the project and stuff like that. And then we also created a really fun voting app called Pairwise. One day we hope we can distribute funds through RetroPGF with Pairwise. But the cool thing about Pairwise is we're going to do a big raffle to all the people that use it to vote on RetroPGF projects. And 40 people will win. Like, we're giving away 4,000 OP, and 40 people will win. So it's kind of like we're like making voting fun is the goal. And eventually, I really want to do liquid democracy with this application, like anonymous, zero knowledge enabled liquid democracy. And so it starts off with kind of like a Tinder experience. You know, you just kind of like, should this project get funding or not in retro funding? We'll definitely give it here. You know, Gloom, I don't know. I'm just gonna say no to some of these, although they're great projects. Don't count this. I'm just like speeding through it for the test, okay? Um, but and so then once you've filtered, then actually we just keep making voting simple. You know, where you can start your pairwise assessment here, and then you just see the two projects. You'll see their metrics. This is still test data, so not all of them have the data uploaded yet, but you'll see the metrics, and you can kind of pick which one, this or that. And it's made mobile first. So, oh man, that's tough. Giveth or Aragon? Like, I love Aragon, but I'm biased. You know, my bias is real. And so you just kind of pick which one, this or that, this or that, this or that, right? And so you can, if you do this, we'll know, by the way, and we're gonna like filter you out a little bit. But yeah, so then you can get your final rankings, and you can actually edit them here and adjust them, you know, like this, and boom, you just voted in Retro PGF, you know. Yeah, and then you can actually, you give a little you give a little explanation on your thoughts. And this is all testing. This is not, voting hasn't started yet for retro funding, so this isn't even real. And then this will actually, we're using behind the scenes, we're actually using account abstraction wallets, Third Web specifically, to create a wallet for you, so you don't have to deal with any of the MetaMask pop-ups or any of this. It's super fun, super easy. And then you connect using Bandata and zero knowledge proofs. You can connect your voting address to your anonymous address. So you are voting anonymously, pseudonymously on chain. And we create a disconnect between your voting address, the address that has the voting power, and the address that you're using to submit, which you don't even know. You don't even know what that address is, because it doesn't matter. But we're submitting an attestation. You are submitting an attestation on chain with this address, with your votes. And when we count it all up, we use zero knowledge proofs to count up the votes based off of your voting power on your secret address. And so it's like real voting, real complex voting. And this is why I'm building this app, because we want to replace governments, you know. And if we want to replace governments, we still need to fund public goods. So this is a way where people, real people, could vote anonymously to fund public goods. And eventually we want to make it like liquid democracy where you can delegate your vote. So anyway, all three of these projects actually launched this week, and it's been a pretty crazy week for me. But I'm very excited. If you guys want to play with these things, I'll give Pete the links so you can try them out. Please try them out. They should be lots of fun.
Yeah, I love seeing how far pairwise has come. It looks great. And so like people vote through this and that's running on like that's like purely through that, or is it like on top of snapshot or something that like Optimism is using for voting? Agora?
Nope. Yeah, it's purely through us. This is all. We don't use Snapshot. We're using Bandata for the voting system around. And actually, I created the voting algorithm, or I worked with our dev team and to design the voting algorithm and parameterize it. So I got to use my good old, like, I used to be on the math team, so I got to get back into that kind of stuff. And the way that we're pairwise, the cool thing about pairwise, and by the way, this is made for a mobile view really, so it's kind of looks funny on my desktop, but the cool thing about pairwise is it's supposed to be fun, and it's also supposed to make it easy to rank a large set of projects. So we categorized the 230 projects, so you don't have to review them all. You just vote on small categories of 15 to 30 projects, and then you rank the categories, and then you get you submit your like partial view with your voting power. And we aggregate everyone's partial view so that they can focus on the areas of expertise and interest that they have and give like really good rankings. And then we aggregate all those rankings together to find the final ranking of projects. So yeah, and everything's custom built. We're not using Snapshot at all. The main thing that we're using is Bandata because we didn't do the zero knowledge magic. They built this amazing infrastructure that we could use and effectively. Oops, getting a call here. Effectively, they are doing this anonymous voting system where you get a secret key. So you sign a message with your secret key, and then you sign a message with your secret key, and then you connect. We connect that to this to the key on your phone or on your other device, and then this secret key is kind of this secret bridge between the two things. So yeah. Anyway, I should run.
Super cool stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Pete, for having me, man.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. It's been a lot of fun and yeah, great hearing about all the stuff that you're up to lately, man. All this great stuff.
Man. It's always. I wish we could catch up more, man. I'm sure. Hopefully, we can have a call where it's not a podcast. So we can just hang out.
Yeah, we should. Cool, man. Yeah, thank you again, and have a great rest of the day. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Pete. See you, man.